Have you ever wondered why the souls that feel the deepest, the ones who sense things others can't even name, are often born into chaos? Into homes where warmth turns to ice, where love sounds more like manipulation, where silence screams louder than words. It almost feels cruel, as if the universe itself has a twisted sense of humor. Why would something so sensitive, so fragile, be placed in a battlefield disguised as a family? The logical mind calls it injustice. But what if logic has nothing to do with it? What if the placement was precise, intentional, even sacred? Imagine this: the universe doesn't send strong souls into comfort. It sends them into fire, because only fire can melt the false layers. Only fire reveals what's indestructible. Your toxic family wasn't punishment, it was initiation. A brutal, beautiful, shattering initiation that forced you to awaken before most people even learn to question. You weren't cursed, you were chosen. And if that sounds strange, stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you might rewrite the story of your entire life. We've been told that spiritual awakening feels serene. Incense smoke, chants, calm faces sitting under trees. But have you noticed? Real awakenings don't look peaceful. They look like breakdowns. They look like sleepless nights, shaking hands, crying in bathrooms, and questioning everything you were taught to believe. The truth is, awakening rarely happens in temples. It happens in trauma. Because trauma cracks the shell that comfort keeps intact. The very people who made you question your worth were the ones unknowingly preparing you to find it. Your toxic family was not a barrier to your awakening. They were the spark that lit it. It's a dangerous truth to accept. But when you finally stop cursing the fire and start seeing what it burned away, you'll realize something shocking. The pain didn't destroy you. It refined you. You didn't survive the storm, you became it. And that storm has been carving out the shape of your true self all along. There's a strange alchemy in suffering. You can hate it, resist it, deny it, but the moment you face it, it transforms. Pain has a secret purpose. It strips away illusions faster than peace ever could. Think about it. The child who grew up begging for love learns to sense truth in people's voices. The one who had to decode moods to stay safe develops a rare intuition. The one who was betrayed learns to see through masks. Every wound trained your awareness. Every betrayal sharpened your perception. The family that was supposed to teach you love ended up teaching you discernment. They made you sensitive, not by nurturing you, but by breaking you open. And here's the paradox. That sensitivity you once called weakness, that's your awakening's seed. Because to awaken is to feel everything, the beauty and the horror, without running. Most people hide from truth their entire lives. You were never given that option. Let's go deeper. Imagine your family as a mirror, but one that reflects distortion. Their lies forced you to search for truth. Their rejection forced you to find acceptance within. Their cruelty forced you to ask what love really is. A perfect family wouldn't have given you that. They would have kept you comfortable, and comfort never questions itself. But dysfunction is a divine trickster. It hurts you just enough to make you start asking dangerous questions. And those questions become keys. Why was I treated this way? Becomes, what is love actually? Why didn't they see me? Becomes, who am I beyond being seen? That's where awakening begins. When pain no longer serves as proof of injustice, but as the teacher of perception. The universe doesn't give soft lessons to those meant to bring light into darkness. It gives chaos, because only those who've known chaos can bring order into it. You weren't raised in darkness by accident. You were being prepared to recognize light by contrast. But here's where the twist deepens. Because the greatest illusion of all is thinking your family's behavior was personal. It wasn't. Their wounds were older than you, inherited like invisible DNA, passed down from ancestors who never healed. You were born into a storm that started centuries before you took your first breath. They weren't villains. They were carriers of unhealed pain. And somehow the cycle found its final stop in you. You were the one who said, even without words, this ends here. That's not weakness, that's cosmic courage. Breaking patterns feels like betrayal, but it's actually liberation. Your awakening didn't begin when you meditated. It began the moment you refused to repeat what hurt you. The moment you looked at the chaos and decided, I will not become this. That's the instant the universe whispered, now they're awake. There comes a point when the pain becomes too intelligent to ignore. You start noticing patterns. The way your mother's silence feels like her mother's silence. The way your father's anger sounds like an echo of his father's rage. And then it hits you. You've been living inside a story that began long before you were born. Every shout, every insult, every moment of neglect, it was all part of a script written by the wounded for the wounded. Most people never realize they're acting out inherited pain. But you did. And that realization is the beginning of power, because once you see the pattern, you can rewrite it. You stop being the victim of your ancestry and become its redeemer. That's not poetic exaggeration, it's spiritual fact. The moment you choose awareness over repetition, the entire chain of suffering begins to shake. Every ancestor who screamed in silence feels it. Every soul that couldn't heal moves an inch closer to peace. Your awakening isn't personal. It's ancestral surgery. You are the one performing it. Through your awareness, through your refusal to live unconsciously. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing time itself. And yet, awakening doesn't arrive with a halo. It arrives disguised as loneliness. Because once you start seeing truth, illusions fall away. And illusions were what everyone around you called normal. You begin to notice conversations that sound hollow, smiles that feel rehearsed, love that demands obedience instead of understanding. It's unsettling. Like realizing you've lived in a play and you're the only one who noticed the stage lights. This loneliness is not punishment. It's purification. You're shedding everything false, and that process looks like isolation. But stay there. In that quiet, a different kind of voice begins to speak. Not your family's, not society's, yours. The voice that was buried under years of noise. And when you hear it for the first time, it doesn't sound divine. It sounds fragile, trembling, real. That's your soul remembering itself. And once that happens, there's no going back. You can pretend to sleep, but you can never again be unconscious. The illusion of belonging dies so that truth can live. You will start to see your family differently. Not as demons, not as saints, but as mirrors, showing what happens when love forgets itself. Their cruelty becomes understandable without becoming acceptable. Their distance becomes tragic instead of personal. You'll see how fear disguised itself as control, how guilt disguised itself as love, and how no one ever taught them another way. That clarity doesn't erase your pain, it transforms it into wisdom. And that wisdom carries shock waves, because suddenly you're no longer trapped in their emotional gravity. You start orbiting higher. And from that higher place, you can see something shocking. They weren't your jailers. They were your teachers in disguise. Painful teachers, yes, but precise ones. They forced you to learn what unconditional love truly means. Love that doesn't demand blindness. Love that doesn't destroy boundaries. Love that sees the wound but refuses to become it. You learned all that, not in temples or books, but in the chaos of your own living room. And that's what makes your awakening unshakable, because it was forged in the fire of experience, not fantasy. But even awakening has its trap. Once you've seen the truth, it's easier to fall into superiority, to think, I'm the awake one, they're still asleep. That's the ego's final disguise. Real awakening is humbling. It breaks the arrogance of I know and replaces it with I see. Seeing is enough. You don't need to convert anyone, heal anyone, or prove anything. The moment you realize that, a quiet power settles in you. The kind of power that doesn't shout, it radiates. Your family may never understand your transformation, and that's okay, because awakening was never meant to be understood. It was meant to be lived. You become a mirror that reflects truth silently. And sometimes that silent reflection will make others uncomfortable. They'll call you distant, cold, detached. But what they're really sensing is your refusal to re-enter the illusion. You've outgrown it. And once a snake sheds its skin, it cannot crawl back inside. Here's where most people stop, at understanding. But awakening asks for something far more radical. Forgiveness without forgetting. Not the shallow forgiveness that says, it's fine. The real kind. The kind that sees everything clearly and still chooses peace. Because when you hold on to resentment, you're still chained to the pattern. Forgiveness is how you release the energy that once trapped you. It's how you close the loop. But here's the twist. Forgiveness isn't something you do. It happens naturally the moment you understand deeply enough. When you see that your parents were children, acting out pain they never healed, the heart can't hate anymore. It simply grieves. And that grief is sacred. It's the moment the human in you meets the divine in them. No one wins, no one loses. Only cycles end. That's the quiet revolution your soul was built for. Some nights, the awakening will feel unbearable. You'll lie awake asking, "Why me?" And the silence will answer, "Because you could handle it." The universe never miscalculates the weight it assigns. The most painful experiences aren't given to the weakest. They're entrusted to the ones strong enough to transmute them. You were handed a family full of storms because you had lightning inside you. That lightning needed resistance to discover itself. Every cruel word, every cold glance, every lonely dinner, it was friction against your potential. Without that resistance, your power would have stayed dormant. You were not chosen to suffer. You were chosen to remember. To remember that even in madness there is music. Even in betrayal there is revelation. The toxic home wasn't your tomb. It was your training ground. The night that tried to swallow you became the same night that taught you to glow. So when you finally step into your own light, don't curse the darkness. It was your first teacher. One day you'll look back, and the scenes that once haunted you will appear almost sacred. You'll realize how every fight shaped your boundaries, how every rejection sculpted your independence, how every silence forced you to hear your inner voice. It's shocking, isn't it? The same experiences that nearly destroyed you are the ones that built your depth. You begin to see that the universe never punishes. It educates. It hides the lessons inside unbearable moments so that only the brave can find them. You were brave. You didn't give up. You questioned. And through that questioning, you found your own truth. Not the one your family sold you. Not the one religion or society fed you. But the truth that bleeds directly from your soul. That truth doesn't need permission to exist. It doesn't need validation. It simply is. And once you touch it, no one, not even the ghosts of your past, can take it away. You'll stand in front of the mirror and see not the wounded child, but the one who alchemized pain into presence. The most shocking realization of all comes when you understand that awakening isn't an escape from pain. It's mastery of it. You no longer need to run from darkness because you've learned how to walk through it without losing your light. You've become fluent in the language of shadows. That's what the universe was teaching you all along. Emotional fluency, spiritual depth. People who've only known comfort cannot comprehend it. They call it coldness. You call it clarity. They call it detachment. You call it freedom. The difference? You've seen too much truth to pretend anymore. You now understand that love without boundaries isn't love, it's addiction. That forgiveness without wisdom isn't healing, it's denial. Awakening gave you something far rarer than peace: discernment. And with that discernment, you'll begin to attract people who speak your new language, souls who've also turned pain into power. You'll know them instantly because their eyes will recognize your journey before you speak a word. And then something even stranger happens. Compassion returns. Not the naive compassion that excuses everything, but the kind that sees clearly and still chooses softness. You begin to see your parents as broken children in adult bodies. You stop wishing they had been different, because you finally understand if they hadn't been who they were, you couldn't have become who you are. That realization doesn't erase accountability, it expands it. You start living with a rare peace, the kind that doesn't depend on external harmony. The same family that once triggered you now becomes your silent classroom. You watch them repeat patterns without resentment, almost like observing characters in a movie you've already seen. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You've transcended both. Because true awakening isn't about changing the world around you, it's about remembering the freedom you always had within you. So here's the truth your soul has been whispering all along. You weren't born into a toxic family to suffer. You were born there to awaken, to break what others could not, to see what others refused to feel what others denied. You were the light placed inside darkness, not to be swallowed by it, but to reveal its purpose. Every generation before you passed down pain, hoping someone would be strong enough to stop it. And that someone turned out to be you. Your awakening isn't just personal, it's cosmic. Because when one soul breaks the chain, an entire lineage breathes for the first time. So yes, your family was the storm, but you are the lightning that illuminates it. You are the proof that darkness never wins when awareness enters the room. And when you finally look back on your story, you'll realize something astonishing. Nothing was wasted. Not the pain, not the confusion, not the tears. Everything was the design. Everything was the path. And you, my friend, have finally become the light you were always searching for.